Oh, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. How have you guys been? I've been good. For those of you who don't know, in Sydney, New South Wales, recently COVID cases have started to go up again. Today I thought it'd be fitting to do a video sharing some tips of mine to help you get through the COVID situation and quarantine and self-isolation. A lot of us are stuck home, or we can't actually go out and socialize the way we used to, and it's really a roller coaster. I'm sure everyone has kind of had an experience of highs and lows during this period. And these are just some things I've kind of figured out that have helped me personally. My first tip is to allow yourself to feel your emotions. I think sometimes we have a tendency to internalize or just like reject everything we feel. But because the pandemic situation is something that's really confusing and it's thrown everything kind of out of order and it feels a bit chaotic, every day we're navigating through this situation. And so it's very normal to feel a whole bunch of different emotions, and I think we really have to allow ourselves to feel those emotions instead of denying ourselves space to actually grieve and mourn what we once knew, but also to have hope for the future and that things will get better. I also think it's really important that we acknowledge that different people have different ways of coping with this situation. So for some people, they want to keep themselves busy. They need to be occupied and constantly doing things. For other people, it might be really hard to do anything, and all you might feel like doing is laying in bed and watching Netflix, and that is totally okay. And that brings me to my second tip. Give yourself permission to be still, because society is often pushing this idea that your productivity determines your self-worth. Just by existing on this planet as a human being, you are of value. And that doesn't depend on how productive you are or how much you're contributing to society, you know. It's okay in this time if you feel that it's really hard for you to do things the way you normally would. So I think giving us permission to be still when we need to relax when we need to, is something I think is really important. Another thing I find really helps is meditation and mindfulness. And yes, when I was young, I always thought this was a thing for old people. But I have since realized that it can actually really help, especially if you're dealing with anxiety, like I do. So every day I like to go sit outside in the sun and just feel the wind, feel the sun on my skin, listen to the birds, and just kind of empty my thoughts out. And afterwards I always feel a lot lighter, a lot more free, and just it's really good, especially if you're a chronic overthinker like me who likes to constantly reevaluate bad decisions I've made every second of every day. We all know how that feels like. My third tip is to stay connected with the people you love. It can often be really easy to isolate yourself emotionally as well as physically in this situation. I have a lot of friends who, when they're kind of in a bad place, they tend to pull back and withdraw. And then sometimes you forget how long you've been pulling away for, and suddenly it's been like a week and you haven't talked to a human being at all. So I think it's good to check in with the ones you love, because sometimes you don't even realize it, but just hearing their voice or seeing their face actually makes you feel a lot better. Of course, there's also the side effect we're seeing now where people are experiencing video call fatigue, and I think that's due to a lot of cognitive dissonance where, you know, you're your minds feel like they're present with each other, but your bodies really aren't. If a video call is too much, you can try a phone call. But also, if certain people really want to talk to you at a certain time every week and it's a constant routine, know that it's okay to have boundaries. And if you're not feeling up to it, just say, hey, look, I'm not feeling like I have the energy to chat with you today, but maybe we can reschedule to another day when I'm feeling a bit better. So it's all about communication. My fourth tip is to set small goals. I procrastinate like crazy, but I also know that there's a reason why I procrastinate, and often it's because I'm feeling depressed or anxious about doing something, so I constantly put it off. Then I'll start to think about how much time I've wasted and that I should be doing something more. And so what I've recently started doing is to set little goals for myself. Instead, by setting smaller goals that are actually achievable, when you actually manage to accomplish them, you feel good, and there's a lot less guilt and disappointment compared to if you've set yourself a really big goal that you just don't end up getting. And sometimes the goals are as small as remembering to drink X amount of cups of water a day, or just going outside and saying hello to the sun, or going to sleep 15 minutes earlier if you're like me and just end up scrolling through social media for hours on end and sleeping at 3 a.m. My fifth tip is to get in touch with your body. And I'm not saying to go exercise or do Chloe Ting's workout for 3 weeks and get them abs. No, I am saying to just get to know your body and appreciate kind of what it's doing for you. And that could be in the form of exercise, but it could be in the form of many other things. Like for me, sometimes I like to play music and dance in my bedroom alone, and just pretend I'm at a club or something, and just remember how my limbs work again, and just be in awe of what my body can actually do. Of course, exercise is pretty great. It releases endorphins. You can go for walks. I always think that with exercise, it's good to pick something that you actually enjoy instead of making it about just trying to lose weight or to fulfill a certain aesthetic kind of goal, because that gets tiring very fast. At least for me personally, I've got a lot of body dysmorphia and body image issues, but that's a story for another time. And last but not least, my favorite, self-pleasure. So I think this is something that gets neglected way too often because people are afraid to talk about it, or they think it's embarrassing. But I think there is no shame in getting to know what your body enjoys sexually, and it will really come in handy later on when you are with someone else and you know exactly what feels good for you. So go give yourself a little me time, okay? My sixth tip is to work on yourself. I personally have a bad habit of not being able to say no to people and constantly wanting to get involved in their problems and help them fix their problems, especially when they come to me asking for help. And that often means neglecting my own problems. And so recently I've been trying really hard to start addressing some of my own issues. And an example for that, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, is that I struggle a lot with body image and body dysmorphia, and especially in quarantine, it's been one of those things that I've been really conflicted about. And so I've been trying to take some time to learn about the history of fat phobia, the history of diet culture, to really kind of unpack what has caused me to feel this way. So I think, if we do have this much time to think about things, let's think about it in a way that will help us ultimately, not in a way that is going to hurt us. And I think working on ourselves is a fantastic thing to do. So you can listen to podcasts or watch videos about things you're struggling with and see if, you can work through them a little bit. Since we're talking about working on ourselves, I believe we should really mention therapy. Everybody in the world got therapy, the world would honestly be a much better place. And I really wish it was normalized a lot more. especially in a time like this where a lot of people are struggling with emotions and not really knowing what to do with those emotions. This is the perfect time to talk to a professional who can actually help you work through that. There's a lot of psychologists now who offer telehealth, so you don't actually have to go see the therapist in person, which actually might be a good option for people who might be easily intimidated or are just really busy. That is a great way to tackle some difficult problems that you might not be able to solve yourself, or that you don't want to talk to people around you about, because of course your friends and your family, they're not your therapists, and we should always be mindful that people have the emotional capacity to listen to you if you're struggling with something that's very emotionally heavy. So let's be considerate of those around us as well while we take care of ourselves. My next tip is to say hello to the sun. I know the weather is different everywhere, so if there's no sun, go say hello to, I don't know, the moon or a tree or something. Just like get out of your house, reacquaint yourself with nature, or just go for a walk. I find that sometimes I'll be sitting in my room and next thing I'll know, it'll be the end of the week and it's like 5 days and I haven't actually gone outside. And then the moment I step out of my house and I feel the sunshine, it's like I'm a whole new person, reborn. Nowadays, all of us are just spending so much more time on social media because we aren't able to go out. And so we're just spending so much time in front of the screen. And so this tip is to clean out your social media feed. And that means unfollowing people who are putting out content that doesn't do anything for you. That way, when you are going through social media, you've created a safer space for yourself where you're not being exposed to content that is potentially triggering for you. So follow people who actually add meaning to your life and give you content that makes you happy and that makes you feel good. Don't keep following people who, when you see their stuff, it brings up negative feelings. Like, there's just no point. My last tip is to reduce your screen time, because 1 second you're on YouTube, 12 hours later you're listening to turtles have sex or something. And yeah, it's not great. So I think it really helps to sometimes get away from the computer, get away from your phone, and do some things offline, you know, paint, do some cooking, find enjoyment in things that aren't digital. It can be 1, really exhausting for your eyes, and 2, sometimes we just need a break from all the noise and information that's out there, and it's good to just take a moment, collect yourself, and to immerse yourself in something that is not the internet. Anyway, I hope these tips have helped you guys in some way. You don't have to follow all of them. I think really just take what you need and apply it to yourself if you think it will be of help to you. Because like I said in the very beginning, everyone has a different way of processing things and a different way of doing things. And my way is not necessarily the right way. It's not a freaking rule book on how to survive this quarantine. But these are just things that have helped me personally. And it's just tackling it day by day, I guess. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel, where I will be talking about more things which I want to talk about, I guess. Thank you for coming here today, and please stay safe and wear your masks. Wear your masks when you go out, or just don't go out, you know? Why are there so many lanes? I swear to God, just come on. I'm so over this. I'm like right under a flight path. There's been like 3 planes in the last freaking 30 minutes. It's